she had the qualities.
She was carrying on with Tommy O in your bed.
She went to prison for murder.
She's Amy's mum.
Didn't she sell her to Roy when she was a baby?
What?
What is this? Have a go at Tracy night?
Well, maybe the problem's with you. You picked wrong uns.
Oh, I see. Let's have a go at Steve night then, is it? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm off. Who needs enemies?
Oh, come on, mate, we're only joking.
Oh.
I better have that. Timmy Two Pints.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 304 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that thinks nearly 5 years after the fact is the ideal time to introduce jokes about Andrew Windsor's ability to sweat. I'm Gavin.
And I too have beef with Drake.
You what?
And I too have beef with Drake.
With Drake? What's he done? Who is he?
What hasn't he done?
I wouldn't speak to him if I knew him. And I don't.
Yeah, no, Kendrick Lamar just dropped like this huge diss track on Drake and called it Euphoria, which is like the ultimate trolling because Drake is a producer on the show Euphoria. So whenever anybody searches Drake Euphoria, Kendrick Lamar's song is going to come up first.
This explains a joke that I heard yesterday where someone was expecting Donald Duck to release a diss track about Anna Kendrick. And I was about to get very angry with Donald Duck. Because it was a misplaced diss track, right? He got the wrong person.
No.
Oh, I've completely misunderstood.
Nobody likes Drake.
I don't know who he is.
He's a rapper and also an actor. He was in Degrassi back in the day.
If he wasn't in The Littlest Hobo, I don't want to know about it.
We talked about some of his music when we were doing the 500 greatest songs of all time.
That was last year, Helen. I've got new things to learn. I can't be expected to remember old things.
Yeah. Drake is creepy with younger women and also is kind of a fake rapper and is not a very good rapper. And, you know, and there are a number of other things that are wrong with Drake. Unfortunately, this is not a Drake podcast, but you do know who Kendrick Lamar is, though. Yes.
And I definitely know who Anna Kendrick is.
Yes.
How are you? You better this week?
Yeah, I'm still coughing.
We were very choked up last week when I was listening back to last week's episode.
I don't know. And I wasn't great last night on List of Lists either. I was listening to that today and I'm like, oh my God. It sounds like I'm about ready to have an asthma attack for most of this episode.
Mm-hmm. And that was with me cutting quite a lot of the bad bits out.
Yeah, seriously. But I kind of knew it because I also, not yesterday, but the day before, had made a video for work because our auction was ending that day.
Oh, you made a video?
Yeah.
Well, that's fun.
Are you going to play the song?
Oh, sorry. I was caught up in your storytelling. Auction talk!
Yay! Yeah, so we had an auction end on Wednesday, and then we have an auction that's ending on Sunday.
It's a double auction talk now.
And then a new auction will go up Tuesday. So, so I made this video because there were some really cool things that, like,
was it a diss track?
It was not.
No.
Because we had this really cool...
Anna Kendrick can breathe easy then.
Yes. We had this really cool fiber optic lamp from the 80s from Japan and stuff. And I was like, I want people to see this in action. I want them to see, you know, the colors change and everything. So I showed that, and I showed this big, like, bullfighter wall hanging thing from the 50s.
Oh, yikes.
That's made of foam, but it looks like wood. So it looks like it's really heavy, but I can pick it up with like one hand. And then like these really cool mid-century lawn chairs. And I had to do the video like 3 or 4 times. In part because I kept running over a minute, and Facebook will only allow for a minute-long video.
Really?
Unless it's a live stream, and I didn't want to do a live stream. And also because it sounded like I was about ready to die.
Well, you'd get the sympathy vote then, wouldn't you?
It sounded like I could barely catch my breath and speak. And I'm like, this is terrible.
Buy this shitty bull thing before I die.
Somebody did buy it.
There you go, see?
But
you're welcome.
So yeah, it's like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? I'm really worried because on Tuesday, we're going to Fenton to catalog a house or catalog the stuff in the house.
Not me.
Not you.
Okay.
No.
You.
No, you don't have to go.
Excellent.
You do have to drive yourself to work that day, though.
I can do that.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be in a car with 4 other people for an hour driving to Fenton. And then, in this house in Fenton, and I still can't catch my breath and I'm still coughing a lot. So I think I'm going to wear a mask for the drive out. Just, I don't think I'm contagious or anything, but I am coughing an awful lot and still, and I want to make people feel comfortable around me.
Yep. Wearing a mask does that. That makes people feel super comfortable.
I feel like it would make the people I work with comfortable.
I'd maybe go in a different car.
There. Well, apparently that's not an option. I could take my own car, but it feels like, I don't know.
It's a long way to Fenton.
It is long. It's like an hour.
Yeah.
So, and then the week after, I have to go, I already told you this, I have to go to Holland.
Yes. Not the country.
Not the country, which is actually called the Netherlands and not Holland. Holland is a province in the Netherlands. It's not the whole country. Which I'm just telling other people.
Look at you, American and known geography.
Considering that, a good chunk of my DNA came from the Netherlands, I kind of make it my business to know these things. But yeah, apparently there's a big, massive house that's chock full of books. So it'll be me and Manny driving to Holland, me to pick out the books for the auction, and Manny to lug them out and load them in the car.
Good old Manny.
Good old Manny, who's like 19.
Oh.
And his name is Manny.
I gather.
You think when you think Manny, you think like an older gentleman, don't you?
Let's not go into what I think when I hear of Manny.
So yeah, lots of exciting stuff happening in the world of the auctions. How was your week?
Yeah, it was all right. Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that Manny Corrie news.
Jude Reardon's dog, Rufus, doesn't seem to be a fan of his owner's acting gig. I fretted much longer than I should have over, do I call him his owner or his master or his friend? What's the proper pet parent? I hate pet parent.
Oh, never say
pet
that.
Parent. Anyway, our Sam shared a video of the pup howling once the Corrie theme tune started playing, which is hilarious. Apparently apparently Jude's dad is doing some work for Coronation Street at the moment. So it was his dad who had the show on and was doing some editing, and all of a sudden Rufus raised his head and just started howling as if he was in so much pain.
No.
And it was hilarious.
Maybe he's read the spoilers.
Shanique Sterling Brown shared a post of Sayer Khan's leaving due before going off on maternity leave, stating that she misses the Alya actor already, which is very, very sweet. It was so nice to see all these ladies just gathered around her and her looking enormous, but
Bloody
in a good
hell,
way.
right? Let's all just bloody hell for a second, because if that's her just finishing up now, can you imagine the size of handbag Alya's going to be wielding in the weeks to come?
Yeah.
That suggests that she's still got 3 months to go then before she's off the show. 2 or 3 months.
I don't think so, considering what just happened this week on the show.
I think
but who knows?
I think they're throwing us red herrings with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a surprise, but that's lovely.
It is lovely. And finally, keep your eyes peeled for a name change on the street. As the Co-op, which has been the Co-op for 6 years, will soon be a Sainsbury's. As Sainsbury's apparently has more money than the Co-op to throw at Coronation Street and ITV.
Sainsbury's.
Isn't that what I said?
Almost. As a much more upmarket
Yes,
supermarket than the Coopy.
I remember.
One wonders what's going to happen to the Co-op bag that's been hanging on Fizz and Tyrone's kitchen door
Forever.
for the past 6 years.
Right.
Is that going to be replaced by a Sainsbury's bag for life?
Who knows?
I can't wait to find out.
I can't wait to find out myself. So, Freshcos beware.
Yeah, they never really make a thing of the Freshcos anymore.
No,
Or very, very seldom.
right.
We used to get to see inside Freshcos.
Isn't that crazy?
Anne Malone died in the freezer in Freshcos whilst holding a can of WD-40, of which I have one right behind me.
Yeah. And then, Grace was racially profiled there.
Yeah, but imagine, Helen, inside the supermarket.
I'm pretty sure she was inside when
No, she was outside.
I know she was outside, but I think we caught a glimpse of her inside too, didn't we? Or is it like her just emerging from the door?
I think we maybe saw the store detective's office.
Yes, we did.
But this is like the aisles and
Right.
the freezer section.
And the freezer section, which kills people,
Wow.
apparently.
Unbelievable.
So how many people has the show locked in a freezer in the
This
run
week?
of the show?
Nobody this week.
Nobody this week, but it's been that person
Anne
then
Malone.
and then Kev and Deb. Remember when Kev and Deb were locked in the freezer?
I do.
Yeah. And then somebody else, right? Somebody else like the year before?
I think so. Let's say Michelle. Michelle wasn't she?
Yeah, Michelle.
Because she was like trying to bang Robert in the freezer
Right.
or something.
Something like that.
Good times.
Oh, well.
Good times.
And that's Corrie News.
That's Corrie News. And those word pictures that you just painted, Helen, in the form of Corrie News bear a striking resemblance to the section that I like to call Everyone's a Critic. You look contemplative.
No, for some reason I was thinking that Last Year Tonight was next.
We haven't been doing that for weeks.
We haven't? We didn't do it last week?
We haven't done it probably for about a month and a half.
I haven't been saying welcome, welcome, welcome every week.
You have not.
What is wrong with me?
I mean, I can forgive that you don't catch the names of storylines every now and again, but get ready for
No, I'm sure. I'm sure you've done it.
get ready for Reality Code and Bites coming up again this week. But no, that entire Last Year Tonight I've dropped because we've had far too much in the mailbag. So for time constraints, it's my least favourite part of the preamble, so it's the first bit to go.
Aw. I always like to hear what I was last year.
Well, apparently you just fill in the blanks yourself. So Sharon wrote in again this week. Remember Sharon wrote in last week? She had questions
yes.
over
Racist Kelly, yes.
Hey, Homer and Marge, she writes. Firstly, I want to apologise for my Freudian slip about racist Lauren/Kelly. I must have dozed off when you said something about that. I would like to share with you, though, my earliest memories of Corrie. I can remember Tracy being born, and I remember Ray and Len having the builder's yard, Ernest Bishop being killed in a bungled robbery at the factory. I was born in 1966. I'm guessing I was 10 or 11 at the time. My mum and dad didn't watch, but I used to go round to a little old lady next door, have biscuits, and her spaniel used to howl at the theme tune.
Just like Rufus.
Just like Rufus.
Who I think is also a spaniel.
Keep up the good work. Love English, brackets, not racist, close brackets, Sharon. Thank you so much, Sharon. I encourage everyone to share their introduction to Corrie's story. What's your introduction to Corrie's story, Helen?
It was a shitty hotel
You're welcome.
in...
Was it your birthday?
It was my birthday.
You're welcome.
On the shores of Lake Huron And we had just gotten in, and you were in the bathroom, and I turned on the television, which was like a box TV,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's a box TV.
That's how good this hotel was.
And the theme song for Coronation Street started playing, and you freaked out in the bathroom.
I did.
You're like, oh my God, that's Coronation Street. And I was like terrified that, you're going to pull an Elvis on me.
Oh. That sort of Elvis. Yeah.
But no, you were so excited. And we guessed that we were able to get Canadian television.
CBC we were picking up because
Yeah.
we were that close to the border.
Right. Yeah. And so we watched Coronation Street. I remember nothing about that episode that we watched.
No, nor do I.
But we watched it, and then we came home, and you started watching it because we found that it was on
It
Hulu.
was on Hulu, but it was quite far behind.
Yeah. And then remember, it was like it became just like something in the air in this house, because I seem to remember Benny at he was like 8 or 9 at the time, just sitting in the living room on his Game Boy or his Nintendo DS, and just start humming the Coronation Street theme song.
Yep.
So it was as much a part of the atmosphere as Frasier was during those years.
I remember you getting kind of dragged into it because I would be sitting in our dining room,
Right.
on the computer that we had set up in the dining room watching.
Right. Before this
Hulu.
was an office.
And then you'd be in folding clothes from laundry or whatever, and just kind of spending more time watching over my shoulder, and then
Right.
and then you kind of became a little bit, I wouldn't say hooked on it, but
No.
interested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Because
times.
it's like British soap operas are so different from American soap operas.
Yeah.
And I also didn't have a soap opera mom. I had a game show mom. So I don't really know. I'm not someone who was exposed to soap operas at an early age by my mother. Kind of like Sharon, I was exposed to soap operas by other people's mothers and neighbors and babysitters.
Yeah, it's funny. Sharon and I think, have had a similar childhood growing up, because I used to go to a little old lady next door to my grand's when I came home from school, and she'd make me a piece and chips, piece and French fries, just to tide me over until dinner. Thank you, Mrs. Phillip. I will never forget that. Well, I will keep my introduction to Corrie's story until next week, and hopefully we'll have some other stories that we can share.
Yes, share your Corrie stories.
CorriePodcast@gmail.com. Please and thank you. Then Mark wrote in and he says, thanks for explaining the etymology of some of your nicknames for characters last week. I always wondered why you called Kelly the Chin, as I never thought that her chin was particularly prominent. It isn't.
It's not.
Learning that the Chin was, according to you anyway, essentially her surname thanks to Rick the Chin being her father, and presumably Laura the Chin, who picked it up as her married name as her mother, it brought me a ridiculous amount of joy. But what, pray tell, does Bobby Phone mean? Bobby Phone! Well, this has got nothing to do with anything. I don't think you know this.
No, because I do a terrible Hank Hill impersonation whenever we bring Bobby up, and I say that boy ain't right.
You've started doing Bobby Phone as well, as you just proved.
Because it's funnier than that boy ain't right.
I had a small part in a play when I was in first or second year in high school.
Uh-huh.
And the only line I had in that play was, Bobby Phone! And every time I hear the name Bobby, it makes me think of that. So,
What was the name of the play?
oh, who knows? That detail is long forgotten.
Somebody has to know.
Hey, if you do, CorriePodcast@gmail.com. Maybe we can reenact it. And then Cheeky writes, Bobby doesn't seem to care about the consequences of his actions. He seems to be perfectly fine with letting Roy lie for him. And that's really the biggest sign of immaturity we've seen from the character. And that says a lot. Furthermore, I think the idea that Paul getting the chance to talk about motor neuron disease is great. And I think that Amy might have a future career in radio. which would be an interesting but worthwhile profession for her to take.
Absolutely.
Outside of that, everything to do with Steve going on dates and forcing Tim to tag along was dumb. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't find any humour in it, and I was deeply offended by the fact that the friend of Steve's date wanted to still have a chance with Tim, despite the fact that she knows he is married.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It's slowly becoming very challenging to be okay with the stories that are being told here, but I can only hope that there is a great twist around the corner, as there usually is in these deeper, darker storylines. Let's hope so, because it would be nice if there's a point.
I'm just enjoying Steve getting back in the dating life.
I must admit, I quite enjoyed that this week.
It's kind of funny, and the whole Steve and Tim "Are you breaking up with me?"
We'll get to
speech was hilarious.
Feedback is always welcome, people. Thank you to Cheeky, Mark, and Sharon this week. Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interests of brevity. And now we'll podcast for coffee. We're on our own refreshments this week.
Oh no!
I'm on 3 separate cans of Canada Dry that are at varying degrees of completeness.
Yeah. Cranberry juice.
Cranberry juice, the old favourite. The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free. Get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. And it's been a very long time since we've got a new review on the iTunes, so if you don't mind, greatly appreciated.
Yes, please.
This is the bit that last year tonight would be in.
Yes.
But it's not.
You know what? And it's funny because I do remember that, and I do remember thinking, wait a second, this is in the wrong part.
Excellent. Shall we dive in, my dear?
I think I need to call my doctor.
I've also stopped doing the quick break and we'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm glad that's gone, because that was always
that
dumb.
Stopped being funny.
It stopped being funny.
Quite some time ago.
Yeah.
All right, our first storyline tonight is where on earth is racist Kelly? Where is she? On Monday, a fragile Nina tells Carla about her plans to go see Roy today. Carla asks that she passes on her best wishes and stuff, obviously keeping a low profile here because she knows that Roy doesn't really want to see her.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Roy calls the cafe looking to speak to Nina because it's her birthday, and when Shona offers him Carla to speak to, Roy hangs up.
He does.
He goes back to his cell and continues to hallucinate about the last time he saw racist Kelly.
But it doesn't seem like it's a hallucination after all.
This is what I said last week. It looked like he was just trying to remember. He's not hallucinating anything. This is a show showing us that he's remembering, or it's the show suggesting that he's purposefully starving himself in order for him to hallucinate, which seems a bit of a long shot.
Yes, that does seem like a long shot. It's confusing because the way that they're showing it makes it seem like a hallucination, like projecting it on the wall and stuff.
Yeah.
If they just had him like closing his eyes and seeing it and then opening his eyes, that would convey it better, I think.
I can almost get behind it being projected onto the cell wall. It's the reflection of it in his eye that I really don't care for.
No, that's terrible.
Bobby goes to see Carla in the factory. She's still not happy with him, but he reckons if Swain was going to lift them, she'd have done it by now. Carla, though, knows that Roy needs to tell the truth. Nina's waiting at the jail to speak to Roy, but he's a no-show again, so Nina gets a guard to go and check his cell, where they find Roy collapsed on his floor.
Oh no!
They speak to Nina and tell her to go to the hospital. I think I said it was Nina's birthday. It wasn't Nina's birthday.
It wasn't Nina's birthday.
That was last week.
Yeah. I was going to call you on it, and then I was like, I'm not, because I feel so ashamed for not realizing that last year tonight is no longer a thing.
Oh, well. That's me got my money's worth out of that. Carla joins Nina, and they frantically try to get some information about Roy's condition. Carla asks to go into his room, but she's knocked back because Roy has taken her off his visitor list.
Dum dum dum. Swain.
Then Swain arrives looking a little Parisian. I thought she's got a little dark polo neck on. Her hair's all fancy and just
Is it?
purdy and just looks like it's been freshly combed.
Has it?
And just in time for her to just, I don't know, bump into Carla.
No.
That's what we're thinking.
That's what you're thinking because you're a dirty, dirty old man.
Oh. Then Swain arrives looking for a word with Carla about the call that she got from Roy. It seems it didn't give anything away right there and then, but now she gets a nod from the doctor that Roy is awake and Swain can go in and talk to him. Roy, though, says that he was only calling to see if there was any progress in the case, and Swain is furious about this and tells him to speak to his solicitor for those sorts of questions.
Is Swain.
And then she has a quick word with Carla and then she fucks off.
Right, yeah. Do you know what? Yeah. Carla is like hovering in the window this whole time.
Yes.
And that's, I think, why Roy keeps stum at
Yeah.
this point. Because Carla, like the angel of death, is just hovering right outside, staring him down.
Carla's the angel of death. Yeah, that's a twist that I think it would probably work, wouldn't it?
Maybe. She does like to wear a lot of black.
Especially when the time for purification arrives. Later, Bobby arrives and learns from Carla that they're in the clear. Roy finally agrees to see Carla, but it's to tell her that after all these lies, Roy no longer thinks that he can be Carla's friend.
Yeah. Fuck off, Roy. Get off
Phew, says Carla.
Get off your high horse,
No,
sir.
she is very upset about this.
Yes. As she should be.
On Wednesday, Mary's off to see Roy and is worried that Carla won't be going. Evelyn promises to have a word, as does Mary, but Nina is worried that this will only put more pressure on Roy, so let's just leave it about the whole Carla thing. Mary turns up to visit Roy at the hospital with a book of crossword puzzles. He reckons that he's looking at life behind bars. Mary asks him if he thinks he's the Count of Monte Cristo or something, and then reminds him that he's innocent. So was the Count of Monte Cristo, says Roy, in what I think was my favourite line of the week.
Yes.
While they do the crossword, Roy explains how he's trying to remember the last conversation he heard between Max and racist Kelly, so Mary gives him some of her mindfulness and visualisation techniques. Roy's got fuck all else to do, so he might as well do that. Mary tells him that he has the answers, he just needs to find them. Back at Nina's Rolls, Nina is telling Amy about the reconstruction that the police are organising. Have you changed your mind on what that reconstruction is going to be like?
No.
It's still going to be about the blood splatters?
I don't care anymore.
When Mary comes back in,
If I ever did.
saying that Roy seemed distracted about the mysterious conversation. Evelyn, Nina, Carla and Mary all wish there was something they could do to help. Back in his cell now, Roy tries Mary's suggested techniques and remembers that Max and racist Kelly were talking about a necklace her fancy boyfriend had bought her.
Yes.
A necklace after a week.
That's... Do you know, when I was watching this episode, when this came up, and then the conversation with Dee Dee that Roy has later when he's drawn the necklace, spoiler alert, I actually said out loud, alone in my bedroom, necklace of the week.
So on Friday, after some toing and froing, Dee Dee finally gets to speak with Roy, and he explains to her how he remembered that the last time he saw racist Kelly and Max together, she had just taken possession of Necklace of the Week. It was an unusual Necklace of the Week, bought for her by her boyfriend, and he reckons that if they can trace it, they might find said boyfriend.
Yes.
Dee Dee is excited by this, and even more so when she hears that Roy has made an accurate sketch of it. She thinks this might blow the case wide open.
Woohoo!
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
Do you remember
Do you remember
a few weeks ago
a few weeks ago in September?
Well, it was maybe January, when there was suspicion in the air about Joel going to propose to Dee Dee. And he said, oh no, that's not a ring, it's just cufflinks that I got. That's what I got from the jewellers.
Uh-huh.
What if that was Kelly's, racist Kelly's, necklace of the week.
I don't think it was.
It's a strange detail to bring up, don't you think?
It is a strange detail for you to bring up.
Or for the show to say, no, it was just cufflinks. £300 cufflinks?
Yeah, he's a fancy man. I don't know. Like I said, I think Joel may be involved in some way, but I don't think he is the boyfriend. I think the other spoiler person is the boyfriend.
This has been brought up by a few people that I've seen on the Twitter, and I'm feeling like it's got a little bit of heft to it. And I know that I've always been very wary of Joel and distrusting of him and kind of looking for reasons to think that I'm right on this, but just the way that they treated the whole cufflinks thing and marriage thing, and then it was quickly all just kind of brushed under the carpet after they split up, and then he comes back again. Just seems that if Coronation Street is going to give us a clue, it's going to be a clue like that.
Didn't he say when he came clean about the ex-wife, didn't he say that was actually something for her when she had the baby or something?
I can't remember that bit.
I seem to remember that, but who knows? Who knows?
So Roy has made a very accurate sketch of what this necklace looks like.
Yes. Well done, Roy.
It does look like something that would be maybe unusual, but I think it's kind of needle in the haystack sort of stuff, trying to find out who would have sold that and then who would have bought it. It still feels like a bit of a long shot. I was quite surprised that Dee Dee thought this to be as important as she thinks it is, because it kind of feels like it's a bit of a last throw of the dice.
Well, it's not like it's some cheap thing.
No, it doesn't look like a cheap thing.
That was bought at, say, Claire's in the mall.
Claire's Accessories.
Yes. Where you get your ears pierced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get my ears pierced there.
Where did you get your ears pierced?
At a barber. Was that a barber? Yeah, I think it was a barber.
I got mine done at Claire's.
It's an international franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to have one. I just discovered, I think it was last week, that Harry and the Hendersons is called Bigfoot and the Hendersons in the UK, which is shocking to me. And it's just kind of weird that this came up somewhere, and I was like, wait a second, are they talking about Harry and the Hendersons?
Yes, they are.
Bigfoot and the Hendersons. You lose the alliteration. And we already know that Harry is a Bigfoot.
What do you mean by Harry?
Well, that's the name of that's his name, Harry.
But he is a Bigfoot.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, named Harry. Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, you've said that a number of times now.
Yes. I believe it was on Films to Be Buried With.
Oh, somebody wants to be buried with that?
And
Good God, it's like me getting buried with stripes.
I think it was the first film that they remember seeing or something. I think that's how it came up. So
Star
it's
Wars
not,
for me.
It's not the film that they're going, it's not the last question, what DVD are you going to take to the afterlife to show when it's your night and movie night in heaven.
Yeah.
So, Star Wars, really?
That's all the movies, yeah.
Oh, the first movie. Okay. So that's not your film to be buried with.
I don't remember seeing any movies before that.
Yeah. Pete's Dragon.
I saw that after Star Wars. That was movie number 2 that I saw.
Yeah.
And oh my God, did that make me cry.
Oh, God. It makes everybody cry.
I could not talk for about 3 hours afterwards. I was traumatized. I still am.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost as
the dragon goes away. All right.
It's almost as traumatizing as a never-ending story when the horse dies, when the horse sinks. That's still just
horses know the risks.
Traumatizes me every time.
Anyway, I must drag this back to Coronation Street. Now, Carla and Roy.
Yeah.
I seem to remember them falling out before.
They have.
Roy, I think, took exception to Carla and Peter.
I think there was a time where Roy misunderstood Carla's psychosis. Oh, and then there was the time when Carla's like, I think was actually drugged, and Roy didn't believe her. And there was kind of a falling out there as well, where Roy and Peter were like conspiring behind her back. So Roy can get off of his high horse here, mister. I thought he'd already recognized that he was being very, very
super judgy.
Right, very patrimonious of his ladies, of the super group of ladies.
I seem to remember when Carla and Peter started a courting again. Roy was very upset about this because of the nature of their relationship in the past. He thought that this was a very ill-advised move for Carla and for Carla's well-being. I don't know if he fell out with her about it, but I remember them having words. So this is not the first time this has happened.
You know, as much as we all love Roy, he is a bit of a dick.
Oh, he's totally a dick, yeah. But he's our dick.
Right, yeah.
So to speak.
Yes, that's true.
And you forgive him because he's like an old uncle.
Right. Yeah,
But-
and at least he's not racist.
No.
It could be worse.
So I don't think this is going to be a permanent
No.
falling out, and once he gets out of jail, it will probably all go back to normal again. But oh well.
Oh well.
Moving on then, our next storyline is Steve's Demi Semi. On Monday at the cab office, Steve is excited about the 3 matches that he's got on Abby's recommended dating site. We're still not sure why Abby's got that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Tim worries that he's been catnipped. Steve plans to date them all, but Tim sees an opportunity for some nonsense here. And in his roles later, Abby and Kev bump into Steve and they talk about his matches because they care or something.
Right.
And then back at the cab office, Tim is doing a one-man version of Blind Date, which is quite incredible. He's doing an impression of Cilla Black. That was a dreadful impersonation of Cilla Black.
A terrible impersonation of Cilla Black. I was like, what is he doing here?
I was aiming for Scouse and got nowhere near it.
No.
But he also does the voice for Our Graham, which is funny. Steve has already decided to meet Carol tomorrow, though. Homeless Carol?
No.
No. Steve goes back to the cafe to show off his photo of Carol to Steve. To Steve?
Shona.
To Shona. Shona thinks that she looks like a right cow, which is funny because she's into horses. She thinks Steve might be her bit of rough. The storyline moves to the pub where Abby is apparently pissed at Kev for getting a big old boner for Steve's matches. Abby thinks Steve's picks wrong uns, and in a huff, Steve storms off. And at this scene, Abby learns that Tracy tried to sell Amy to the Crawfords.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And then we never see the bit where she gets filled in about it, which is
Right.
a pity.
Yeah. That was funny, though.
Tim goes with them to Maxine's bench and Steve is in a reflective mood. Tim says that he'd shag him if he was a woman and reckons that they'd probably be quite happy together. Steve's about to cancel Carol, but Tim snatches his phone away and won't hear of it. Tim says that Steve deserves to be happy. On Wednesday, Steve is prepping for his hot date. He's like a little boy. Tim doesn't know why he can't meet people via a more traditional way, and he gives Steve some of his hot tips. Banter. It's all about the banter.
It is all about the banter.
Steve goes off to model his shirts to Tim and Amy, who both do a runner. Later, Steve in a suit jacket turns up at the Rovers for his date, and Jenny does her best to boost his ego while pouring the worst pint ever. After she serves 2 women, one of whom is Steve's date, Carol.
4 women.
And the other is Courtney Love after a rough night.
Right. And then
She's
there's
there.
2 other women.
Yeah.
But so she's shown up to her date with 3 other women.
Yes. They're for moral support, and they're apparently going off somewhere else later.
Right. Yeah.
Steve tries to create a good impression by nipping off for a shite as another friend arrives, so Steve ropes in Tim as his wingman, and he really hits it off with Courtney Love. She thinks his name is Tom, and she's working like a bear to get into his knickers. He's lapping up the attention when Sally comes in and spots them. How very fucking hell. Sally is affronted and drags Tim home.
In fairness, Tim has been trying to get away this whole time.
He has.
Yeah. He's not exactly loving this.
I thought... He's not exactly hating it.
No. But he keeps trying to leave and Steve keeps guilting him into staying.
Mm-hmm.
And also, why is this woman interested in Tim? Explain this to me.
Well, that's not the only bit of Tim confusion that we get this week. Because we get a little tonight from Sally. But yeah.
Yeah.
But why Courtney Love would care for Tim, I have absolutely no
Right,
idea.
especially since she seems to be the snobby one and looking down her nose at everything.
Right.
And, asking for the wine list. There are 2 wine jokes this week
Yes.
in the pub.
2 wine jokes for the connoisseurs amongst the audience.
Yes. Later, Sally will call a kind of wine by its initials, which nobody ever does.
And Sean is infuriated by this.
Yes.
So the first one was just, we've only got 2, red or white.
Yeah. And then she makes a joke saying she could mix them both together to give them a rosé. And Courtney Love says, that's not how that works. And Jenny says, yeah, I know. It was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney Love.
When you say it was a joke, something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Carol doesn't look like she's enjoying this all that much and confirms when Steve asks if they can see each other again. She thinks he's a lovely fella, but has absolutely no interest whatsoever in doing this again.
Yeah. But I think an awful lot of that, in fairness to Steve, is the fact that her friends came along with her in a very overt way. It's one thing to have your friends come and sit at another table and just keep an eye on you. Mm-hmm. That's sensible in this day and age. But to have them be overbearing and insult your date and sit at the table with you and your date, that's a bridge too far.
Now, this is the one that Shona thought was too posh for Steve, and he would be her bit of rough.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that.
No.
Meanwhile, Tim struggles to explain what happened earlier, and Sally is mad because she was humiliated in her local.
Really? Were you? Were you, Sally? Was that humiliating? The only time it was humiliating was when you yelled at your husband and grabbed his ear and dragged him off. You could have just given him a look, and he would have come.
To be fair, she did do that. She reminds him that Steve is a single man and maybe it would be less risky if the two of them stayed away from each other until he settles down again and, they can just socialise at work. Tim reluctantly agrees. When he's taking the bins out later, he runs into Steve and explains the situation. I can't hang around with you anymore. We want different things.
Right.
Are you breaking up with me? Says Steve. And Tim runs back into the house and Sally's standing watching this from the window.
That was hilarious.
Seriously. On Friday, Steve is down in the dumps and's considering deleting all of his dating apps. Amy reminds him that there's no rush, just as Demi drops him a message.
Yes, Demi.
The stars have aligned.
The one who deleted her profile when he said we should meet.
She's back.
She's back.
And they arranged to meet up later at the pub. God, we've set our sights pretty high here. This is 2 dates in a row at the Rovers.
Yeah.
Tim and Steve are struggling to keep to the terms of their breakup agreement, with Steve blaming Sally. Later, Tim and Sally meet in the Rovers and he promises that he hasn't crossed the line with Steve, but he tells her how difficult this is. Steve is the Morecambe to his Y's, the Xavi to his Iniesta. He thinks that she was wrong to ban him from seeing Steve, and he was wrong to agree to it. She claims that she was scared that Tim would see that the grass is greener and follow Steve's lead and live in the single life. She reckons that she's punching, and Tim falls for it. Later, Steve turns up to the Rovers and meets Demi, who's at a table with 2 pints of Newton and Ridley, and the two of them hit it off immediately. What a welcoming pair, he says. Talking about the pints, not her tits.
Right, but those are nice too. When we finally get to see them, because when he first comes in, she's covered up with a newspaper.
She's like a spy.
Right.
It's like she's got 2 holes for her eyes.
I was like, oh no,
paper.
is this going to be somebody we know? Has he been
That's what I
catfished
thought.
by somebody on the street?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going
It's
to
going to be Mary.
Or Tyrone's mum?
Cassie.
Yeah. Who regrets passing him off the other day.
But no, it really was Demi.
Yeah. Steve is punching.
Seriously. Here's to a cracking night, he says, and they clink glasses together. And a cracking night they seem to have, as she goes through her dream dinner party list, which contains Steve Coogan and some girl pipers, which I don't think I know what that is. They agree to a second date. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes. And it's funny because Tim and Sally come in and Sally is like kind of insulting poor Steve.
She
like,
is,
the
very
whole
much
way
so.
through, and oh, that poor woman and what she must be going through, because she can only see the Steve part. She doesn't see Demi.
And she doesn't approve of Steve turning up in these jeans, even though they're his pulling jeans.
Right.
And Demi rather likes them. She remarks on them.
Yes. She says, "Oh, those are some nice jeans there you're wearing there, pal."
Now, why don't you come over here?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see the back of Steve, but I'm wondering if they're like, if you're like that, if it's like that pair of jeans that you have that just do magical things with your ass, which is already pretty nice to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. What is wrong with Demi?
There's something wrong with her.
Why did she delete the app?
Right.
And why did she suddenly come back again?
Back up.
And why is
Something's up here.
so much more attractive than Steve?
Right. And why is
she pretending to enjoy Steve's company? Although Steve, to be fair, was far more charming with her than he ever was with Carla.
But she also seems to be saying all the right things.
All the right things.
For Steve, including insulting Tommy O.
Yeah, that seals the deal as far as Steve's concerned.
Right. Yeah. There's something going on here. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
I feel Steve is so vulnerable this week.
It's so sad.
It's quite sad.
Poor wee Steve. Poor fat Dracula.
The two of them, though, Steve and Tim this week.
Yeah.
Contrary to some correspondence that we've had, I actually found that this was the perfect tonic to some of the heavier storylines that we were having. That at least the Steve and Tim stuff was a little light-hearted.
Right. And the whole scene with the like game show sort of thing.
Oh, superb.
It felt like we were getting back to the days where they would wrap themselves in tape and pretend to be Velociraptor or Tyrannosaurus Rexes.
Yes.
It had that feel to it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, please bring this back.
I loved the blind date stuff. I thought his impressions were absolutely spot on. I liked how he had printed off photographs of the three women and put them up on the board because they're
hilarious.
at work. They're at work.
Right.
Of course they're able to do that at work. Yeah, I thought that was excellent. But all the way through it though, there's this little bit of pathos that's going through it because Steve is obviously so desperately missing Tracy.
Yeah.
And I remember...
I don't want them to get back together, though. I don't want Steve and Tracy to get back together.
I think it's going to be difficult to sell it, but it feels... I don't know how long that's Tracy been out of it for. A few weeks now. I think we're maybe sounding like we thought that Tracy was out of it for a longer spell. And then we maybe started to think, well, maybe she's just out for a little while because she had a strange exit, but she got a twofer for her exit because she left in the black cab and then she left later in the van. In the decorating van. So she managed to wangle two exits out of the one storyline. So I still don't know if she's out of it longer term or not. Right. But you know, the sorrow that Steve is feeling here, just, I don't know, it feels like a really real, raw emotion.
It does.
And the kind of sadness that you feel when a relationship breaks up, even though he was kind of cheated on, and even though he wasn't entirely the perfect husband material for her, it was just sad, and he was just sad, and that felt right. So his tentative sticking his toe into the dating pool again, I don't know, just feels like it's got this just tinge of sadness through it all, and I'm grateful for the jokes that went along with it. But I think this is something that Corrie does really well, that there is another side to the comedy, and the comedy the other side of that comedy often is the kind of the sad fool that Steve is here. I don't know, I just thought it was really well done. And you kind of maybe write it off as being the comic relief for this week, but there was more to it than that, I felt.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, the fact that he gets so upset when they start ragging on Tracy, that's the thing that gets him upset and makes him leave.
Yeah, and even
Go
when he
sits
had
on the bench.
his moment with Carol, was it Jenny that was very quick to come over and say that his wife ran off with a footballer? Mm-hmm. And it's like, what are you doing, Jenny? And then Steve's like, well, ex-footballer, but you could tell that he was hurt by that as well.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
I don't know.
I would like to know what Demi's deal is here. I don't know. I immediately liked her. I thought she was she made a really good first impression to Steve and the audience, I felt.
I immediately liked her, and I also immediately didn't trust her.
Yeah.
You know? Unlike Joel.
Who I immediately didn't like and didn't trust.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Joel at the start?
I liked him. I thought he was nice.
How did you feel about him now?
I still don't hate him the way you hate him.
I don't hate him, I just don't trust him.
Yeah.
Let's move on then to our next storyline, reality coding bites. On Monday, Nick is in the market for a big fuck-off TV, but doesn't think he can justify the expense. Leanne thinks he should go for it. We work hard, she says. Like she realised when she was uploading that time.
Right, yeah.
She even has
Fuck
ideas
off.
for the Bistro that sound very much like Damon's ideas.
Right, and she does give Damon credit. She's like,
Eventually.
Damon was, wanted to do this, and then he left us in the lurch when we were supposed to have that meeting. But I think maybe we should pick this back up again.
The idea is street food. She goes off to write up a proposal while Nick wonders how they got off the topic of his big fuck-off TV. At the bistro, Nick talks to Toyah about the pop-up restaurant idea. If they're going to go for it, he's going to need Toyah to step up and be manager. Toyah doesn't think she's looking for responsibility right now, and may I just remind you, I've just told everybody that I buried my baby last week.
Right.
Nick wants her to think about it because she's so good with people.
She is.
So she gives it some thought and would rather focus on the helping people thing and suggests giving ex-offenders a go working at the bistro. Leanne catches wind of this and puts the kibosh on it.
She's very angry.
She's furious.
She is furious. She seems to forget that she used to be a drug dealer and has also done other crimes.
Yes. Leanne fucks off, which allows Nick's balls to grow back, and he suggests Toyah work for a charity instead. Toyah pats his shoulder and thanks him, and they definitely share a wee
Look.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
I knew the show was going to do this.
Of course they were.
Not the Nick and Toyah thing.
Oh.
That they're going to break Toyah's backstory up, change core elements of her character,
Right.
put her back together again, and then just do fucking nothing with that story. So that's another...
I don't feel like that story is over yet.
I don't feel like it's over yet either, but this happened last Monday, Wednesday. It was barely mentioned last Friday. It was mentioned on Monday in the passing once, and then nothing else comes for it.
Right. But the thing that we noticed having its beginning last week between Toyah and Nick seems to be continuing. And Leanne just being a total cow and having absolutely no empathy for anyone but herself. Mm-hmm. We deserve nice things, but fuck everyone else. Even though I've done crimes.
I don't feel like I'm madly against the idea of Nick and Toyah anymore.
No, me neither.
I mean...
Nick deserves a little happiness.
Nick
Maybe he'll stop crying.
Nick is a whiny-faced old man. And maybe going out with Toyah would cheer him up a little bit. I don't know. Who knows?
Until she kills him with her car.
Until she kills him, yeah.
And,
why me?
And, this wouldn't be the first time that Leanne and Toyah shared a man.
No.
They both had Peter. Mm-hmm. So, why not?
Toyah's
and she
reintroduction to the show was via Peter.
Yeah. And Nick's reintroduction to the show was via Leanne getting hit by a car
Yep.
twice. She gets hit and then she gets run back over.
Oh, yeah, she does get hit twice. She's Meet Joe Black.
Yeah, only not quite as hilarious.
Still quite hilarious.
I want to see her bouncing from car to car to car
Yeah, there's only so much that special effects can do these days.
on Coronation Street.
It's sad.
They need to be like Doctor Who and get bought up by Disney.
Do you remember them being so behind Damon's idea at the time?
I feel like Damon talked them into it and they were cool with it once he talked them into it. Because remember, they did go to that meeting and then Damon didn't show up and Leanne was pissed off at him, not knowing why he didn't show up because he was helping somebody or something. But it seems like it was something they seemed more into it than they were some of Damon's other ideas. So who knows? I'm really shocked Toyah turning down the management job because it would give her more money and it would give her something to do that would make her not think about this other stuff, which I think would be helpful.
She definitely needs something else in her life. At the moment, she is living with her sister and her sister's man and her sister's man's wee boy.
And her sister's big boy.
Right. Who is still there for the time being at least.
Right. How
with
is he
no
going?
sign of...
How is he going out of the show?
Who knows?
Who knows? Do you think the cult guy's going to murder him?
No. With no sign of how...
Damn.
With no sign of how Toyah's moving on from that situation. She's a counsellor. She said it this week. She's a counsellor who's never done it in years. And what is she in life now?
You would think she would be able to get another counseling job. It kind of seems like the country is desperate for counselors and other medical professions at the moment. You'd think she could find work with somebody other than, you know, where she was working
Maria.
before.
Talking to Maria on the sly.
No, I mean, when she was working for Dr. Gaddis.
Yeah.
Dr. Gaddis isn't the only doctor in town. I'm sure she could set up her own office. Why has she not done that? I'm sure she could set up her own office. I'm sure she could have, like, cordoned off a room in her home to see clients.
It's a lack of ambition, of which she's proven again with turning down the manager job.
Right.
Although getting sort of pigeonholed into the service industry maybe isn't for everyone, but God, it's something to do.
Right.
It's something to do for the time being until you figure out what else you want to do.
Right. And it's better than just being a server at your sister's restaurant.
Yeah. While your sister's been an absolute cow.
Yeah. And you are eventually going to have sexual relations with your sister's man.
Is that definitely going to happen, do you think?
It's going to happen. Come on.
I think that they're certainly getting pushed that way. I don't know if they're going to follow through in it. Nick does love Leanne.
Does he, though?
Yeah, he does. It's always been her.
Does he, though?
Yes.
She's been terrible lately. How could anybody... He loves Sam more, and she's jeopardized Sam's life a number of times now.
Yeah, maybe. All right, let's move on. Our next storyline is hot legal action. On Monday at the law office, Dee Dee is up to her tits in admin tasks, so Adam has to promise to do his share. Alya comes in, despite not working there, looking for a pair of shoes that she left behind for some reason. Adam doesn't miss Alya at all and calls her a lazy cow, but does so with an arrogant swagger and a wink. It's all banter. But all too quick, Adam is complaining about being above this menial work and then wants to get out of the Fabian deal. Dee Dee thinks this is a shocking decision and will just look like he's doing it to spite Alya, which he is. So he has a conference call with Fabians and is shocked to hear Alya's on the call, and she totally girl bosses the meeting, and because she knows Adam's diary, she can insist on a meeting tomorrow when he would rather not. Adam hangs up on her. Alya meets up with Dee Dee in the bistro later. Alya, furious that she got hung up on, Dee Dee smirks, thinking that maybe Adam and Alya have the hots for each other. Alya blushes and starts talking about Rich and maybe getting some corporate law experience in their Dublin office.
Ooh.
I think this is all Dee Dee's fault. I think Dee Dee's planted the seed with both of them that they wouldn't have noticed if it wasn't for Dee Dee.
No, but let's remember Adam and Michael watching Alya walk away.
They had a wee look at her ass. They did.
Yes, they did.
On Wednesday, Alya and Rich turn up at the law office for their meeting with Adam. The talk is of Alya heading off to pastures new next week in the shape of Dublin. Adam promises to come visit.
A lovely city.
Or maybe he threatens to come visit. Alya is amenable to the idea and mentions how her gran is missing her already. Adam turns to business, and Rich is impressed with it all and wants Alya to work with Adam tomorrow to finish the paperwork.
Which makes no sense.
No, none of this makes sense. What are they even doing? What's the meeting about? Oh, we're having a meeting, we've got paperwork and things have been drawn up and here's a chart. Excellent work. You two continue working on this tomorrow.
Yeah. Why would he do that? Why would he make Alya work with somebody in an office that was a toxic work environment for her and she quit to work for him?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
And Rich has already stumbled into the office once to find Adam. Oh no, Adam stumbled into the office,
Right.
winching the face off that woman.
Yes.
He's seen that already.
Yeah.
So he kind of knows what
Adam's like.
And if he didn't know already.
Well, he's going to know now.
When Rich leaves, Adam doesn't know how Alya can work with someone so arrogant. Alya has had plenty of practice. And later Dee Dee comes back and is surprised that Adam is still working hard. She takes a photo of him and says that she's going to send it to Alya, explaining how hard he's working to get her to fancy him. Adam plays it cool, but doesn't deny anything.
His hair looks terrible.
He's had about 7 different hairstyles this week.
And they're all terrible. It's like he stuck his finger in a light socket.
He does not need volumizer.
No.
That is
He needs the opposite of volumizer.
a comb. Maybe speak to D.S. Swain. Borrow hers. On Friday, Alya and Adam are working on whatever paperwork was invented by Rich, but they're doing a fair amount of flirting over the files because this, thanks to Dee Dee, is a thing now. They continue to look too long into each other's eyes until Adam admits to fancying Alya, and she says that she fancies him too, and have a good old passionate winch as we hear footsteps coming up the stairs. But they keep on winching while Rich comes in and has to clear his throat. What the actual very fuck? This reflects rather poorly on Alya, says Rich, and he has to consider her Dublin placement now. You can't go to Dublin because you winch fellas. Adam insists Alya is up for the job, but he then goes looking for a high five and the recommendation turns sour.
Yes.
He takes the blame, insists that Alya is a consummate professional. And Alya is the consummate professional in the pub talking about boys with Dee Dee. She's worried that Dublin is off the table and names places there that she's heard of. Dee Dee, though, thinks suddenly that this might be the distance that she needs.
Yes.
And that's as
To
far as
have
we
a
get with
baby.
that this week. They keep on teasing the reason why Alya's going to leave.
Well, again, it's like Simon. We're like, oh, it's going to be because of the alcoholism that he's going to leave. Or, oh,
Nope.
he's going to go to jail for
The car
crash.
Nope.
That's, no. He's going to join this cult and move away.
No, he's too skint for that. He can't afford that. No.
Right, yeah. He's left the cult now. Although he did tell Bobby all about it, apparently, at some point.
He's left the cult, and he's already starting to think that the things that the cult's suggesting is bullshit.
Yeah.
So this
It's just
worked
hilarious.
brilliantly on Simon, who was the one that got Leanne
Leanne
roped
in the
into this in the
first
first place. But Alya, we thought Alya was going to go work for Rich. We didn't know that Rich was still working for Adam, or the
He's
two of them
not.
are working together on something.
Right. He works for Fabian's.
Whatever that is.
It's another law office.
Why are 2 lawyers working together?
I don't know. Well, occasionally Joel has worked with Dee Dee before, so I guess it kind of makes sense. If like they're gonna work together on some cases or something, and it just feels like Barlow and Company, which should be Barlow and Bailey by now, and be selling wine coolers.
And staging circuses.
Yes. But for some reason, even though they're supposed to be partners now, Bailey's not in the name yet.
No.
It's going to be hilarious when it happens. It's like, remember Dev? Remember Dev, where it was going to be Allahan, and Allahan?
A and A and A.
Yeah, that never happened.
I did.
And then it didn't.
Oh, no, it has. That's what the
It says
outside says.
Allahan's now, still, doesn't it?
No, it says D and A and A Allahan. For Dev, Asha, and Addy.
The DA,
It was D and S for Dev and Sunita.
right.
But then he decided to shit all over his deceased
wife.
wife's memory by removing her name from the
Well,
from the
removing her
store.
S.
So nice S.
Right. Could be DSA instead of DA. District Attorney A.
So anyway, we thought Alya was
Anyway.
going to go away. That turned out not to be a thing. Now it looked like she was going to go away to Dublin, but now that doesn't look like it's going to be a thing anymore. And now she's setting up a relationship with Adam. Is this woman ever going to leave? And when she does, how big is her handbag going to be? Because it's already enormous.
Yeah, she has to belly up to the bar or table in every single scene.
Yep.
Or hide half of her body behind a door.
Or behind
Hi, I'm just peeking my head in to ask if you see my heels.
Demi's newspaper.
Demi can hide a lot in the newspaper.
We know she's going to end up going to that London to do Zidane's hair. It's just a matter of time.
No. I wanted to go to Dublin. I like Dublin. Dublin's nice.
Good airport.
Yeah. Nice museums. Book of Kells. The Book of Kells is there. I've seen it. It's nice. The Trinity Library. One of my favorites.
Look at you, an American with a passport. That's dangerous. All right, our next storyline, our penultimate storyline, no less.
Ooh la la.
High anxiety. On Wednesday, Liam is in Nina's Rolls, waiting for a ham and cheese toastie, sucking the life out of this asthma inhaler that he's got. Evelyn reckons that he's like something out of Oliver, washing behind his ears and stuff. Meanwhile, Maria is still worried that Liam is withdrawn, and she's further concerned when she goes to Nina's Rolls later and Nina tells her about Liam looking anxious earlier.
Are you talking about Oliver the cat?
No, Oliver Twist.
Right. Washing behind his ears like a
No,
cat?
Liam does that.
Because you know,
But-
Disney made a movie about Oliver and made Oliver a cat. And
Sure.
Billy Joel did all the music.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Bette Midler was a poodle.
I'd be all over that if Billy Joel was in it. Maria rushes off to call the school. Gary thinks this is a bit of an overreaction. At home, Liam overhears them talking about going private if they can't get him onto that CAMS thing soon. And he insists that he's fine and that he's looking to take some martial arts lessons to help his physical and mental well-being. Says that he doesn't want them spending money on the therapy stuff. He's happy to wait his turn. And then he washes behind his ears a wee bit again. On Friday, Liam and Maria are in Nina's Rolls. He's on the Voggle looking up how to deal with anxiety. Maria reminds him that he's got his martial arts class and it's due to start and offers to go with, but Liam is clearly mortified and reminds his mum that he's not about to top himself so she can relax. Later, Liam is looking up diazepam at the community centre on the Voggle again, which is, really? That's where we're going with this? Let's hope not. Liam on the jellies? No thank you.
Well,
And then he hooks up with Joseph, who's also doing the martial arts
really,
thing.
of all of the children on the street, it's
Tiny Joseph.
It's Joseph. It's Joseph. He sees Joseph right after he's looking up diazepam. Where could the show possibly be taking this?
Diazepam isn't the same as benzos, is it? I don't think so. I'm not sure what benzos are. I know what diazepam is.
Yeah. It's what Paul has in his cupboard
Oh, that's
to
benzos.
overdose. Yeah. No, and there's diazepam there as well. Because that's the anxiety part. You take the diazepam first, and then and it relieves your anxiety before you take the overdose of medication that's going to kill you.
Oh, symptoms of anxiety and alcohol withdrawal. This medicine may also be used to treat seizure disorders and help relax muscles or relieve muscle spasms. I think that's why my granddad had it. Mm-hmm. Diazepam is a benzodiazepine, hence a benzo.
Yes.
Diazepam is a benzo.
Yes.
You heard it here first. Well, that answers that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, Joseph's going to the martial arts class.
Yes.
To
Joseph,
kick fuck out of Chesney next week, let's hope.
Whose parents are constantly skint and wondering where their next meal is coming from, is in Little Big Shots and now also a martial arts class and goes to a private school now.
Yep. Thanks, Granny Linda. Afterwards, in Nina's rolls, Liam was on the phone to Maria, insisting what a great time he had. Joseph, though, knows that Liam was lying and didn't do anything in the class. And I thought, God, we're going to get Joseph bullying Liam now? But he knows something that will get Liam into it. At home, Liam announces that he'll be hanging out with Joseph tomorrow watching Jackie Chan movies.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Which sounds like an awful lot of fun.
Yes.
Maria thinks a bit of socialising with cheery Joseph might just be the tonic that Liam needs. Liam goes to his room, but it's clear that his brave face is just a front and he's suffering quite a bit still from his anxiety.
Right, and he takes another hit off his inhaler.
Which I'm kind of worried is going to end up being empty when he really needs it.
Well, he really needs it now.
Well, he's not having an asthma attack, is he?
Well, he's breathing heavily, so he takes it so he doesn't have the asthma attack. When you start to feel it coming on, that's when you need to take your inhaler.
So this is maybe an unusual...
It's nice that the show remembers that he has asthma, though.
An unusual twist to the end of the bullying story that Liam might... I assume that Mason's behind bars now. We haven't really heard anything about it or got confirmation of it. Usually they mention something just so we know, just to keep people like us happy. But
are we ever happy?
No. But then this is I guess is a common way that this sort of thing can go, that while the bullying might be over, it's had some lasting effects on poor Liam.
There's such a thing as PTSD.
And that's what he's experiencing
not
now.
just for soldiers.
And I don't think that maybe the show is always that mindful that this is something that can happen in the aftermath of something traumatic. It's kind of good that they've done that now.
Or that it happens in the aftermath of something traumatic to men as well as women.
Yes.
Because we know that women are constantly traumatized by the trauma that the show throws them at.
So much trauma.
So much
But you
trauma.
know, it allows them to be strong.
Oh, they're so strong.
Such a strong woman.
Such a strong woman.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Look at her. You wouldn't have
She's so
believed what
strong.
would have happened to her last week.
She's so strong.
But
She's my hero.
What an example to set to other women. And that guy got to learn something about himself. So isn't that nice?
Yes, he did.
No, I'm very much approving of this. And it's nice seeing Liam and Maria at home in a nice little scene together, just having their dinner, and he gives her a hug, and it's lovely.
Yeah.
She has still been a little bit helicopter with him, right enough.
But that happens.
Yeah. Good to see Vogel again. I advise everyone to check out vogel.co.uk and see where that takes you.
Yes.
$5 a year that costs. Money well spent.
Yes.
All right, our final storyline tonight is 24-hour Denny. On Monday, Billy is helping Paul get ready for his radio interview. Remember the radio interview from last week with Amy?
Yes.
Billy won't be there because he has a parishioner to see, even though he gave up being an archdeacon, I thought. Billy advises Paul to take his time and listen to Amy, and he wants a fucking song request too. Paul and Bernie wait outside for ages for their cab.
Some Rick Astley. Never gonna give you up. He wants to get rickrolled in more ways than one.
Oh. But when it shows up, the taxi can't take Paul's chair. The driver could not give a solitary fuck about this and tells him to phone the taxi firm for another one. How rude. Paul and Bernie finally get to the radio station. Paul has had a fucker of a day, and the disabled toilet was fucked as well. He has to take a call from his MND group before they get started, but they've got bad news. We don't find out exactly what this is about until later. On air, Paul complains about how difficult things are for disabled people and how the world is inaccessible. Amy, to be fair, is completely out of her depth with this and tries to play devil's advocate about the benefits and charity disabled people get. But Paul points out that they take benefits away as quick as they give them out. And they've just found out that its M&D group has lost its free venue because the council are a shower of bastards. Amy quickly covers for Paul's profanity and goes to an Enya track. Amy and Bernie
Which is hilarious.
downplay his slip-up, and hopefully Amy won't get sacked and Paul won't get fined. Later, Amy gets a call from the station manager. They loved the interview, and it's got record streaming numbers. Huzzah! How easy it is for people on this show to go viral. Not only that, there's now a crowdfunder for the M&D group, and there's a piece on Radio Weatherfield about it. And then we cut to outside and we see a dodgy-looking cabbie listening to his Radio Weatherfield show, scribbling down Paul's name and location on his newspaper. Mm-hmm. What on earth could this be?
A man who needs a haircut. That's what this is.
Yes, I couldn't make out what Paul's actual swearing was. Was it?
It was an
Call it a
F-bomb.
bit of fuckers or something like that.
Right.
What a
Fucking
shower!
ridiculous.
What a shower of fuckers the council are. Something
No,
like that.
he
wasn't
said
it?
it's fucking ridiculous.
Was it?
Yeah. Because you hear him go, and then you immediately go to Bernie's face, pretending to be shocked that her son said a bad word.
Bernie's never said that word before.
No.
Amy hasn't heard it before either,
No,
so doesn't know
yeah.
what it means.
It's hilarious how shocked everybody looks.
On Wednesday, a mysterious stranger is in Nina's roles, earwigging on Nina and Evelyn, who are chatting about Bernie coming in later for a shift. Meanwhile, Paul is well pleased that the fruitiness on the radio yesterday has helped the crowdfunder for the MND
It's
support
up
group.
to over $2,000 now.
Yeah. Billy apparently is unable to help with this instead, and rather than offer up a church hall, he suggests telling the council about the crowdfunder. So Paul and Gemma
Right,
talk to
yeah,
Maria.
thanks, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
You
one
have
thing
a
that you can do.
Big, massive church, Billy. Remember that?
So Paul and Gemma talk to Maria, who agree that this might be enough to shame the council into action. Then the mysterious stranger shows up later to speak to Bernie. This is Denny, Paul's dad.
Poor Gemmas.
And he's looking to reconnect. But Bernie tells him he's too late because Paul's carked it already. She tells him to sling his hook, and he does, but he's furious that she kept him in the dark about this. But it's not long before he's back because he spied on Bernie and followed her home and up to the flat where Paul is there with Gemma, and he's very much alive. Bernie explains it was a lie to protect Paul. No one seems pleased to see Denny, but Paul decides to give him a chance, and the two of them go off for 10 minutes to grab a cuppa. But rather than that, though, he takes Paul to the pub to catch up on the big news in Paul's life. Gay, married to an archdeacon, and dying of motor neuron disease. Denny thinks this is all hilarious and insists that he doesn't have a problem with any of it and apologises for being a shite dad, insisting that he's changed. Paul is wearing a collar now to keep his chin up,
Right, yeah.
and Denny encourages him to loosen it up and take it off. Paul is happy to give his dad the benefit of the doubt given the circumstances, and the two of them get more beers in. Eventually, Paul's a bit pissed and drops a glass, and Jenny reckons that he's had enough. So they get a carry out and head back to the flat, by which time Paul is definitely worse for wear. Billy isn't best pleased with Denny's behaviour and lack of responsibility. Paul angrily insists that he's fine and suggests that at least Denny doesn't mollycoddle him, but his argument is reduced somewhat when he pukes down himself. Seeing that some adulting is required, Denny makes a sharp exit. Outside, he threatens Bernie, telling her that they both know that she's not squeaky clean either.
Which we already know, don't we?
I don't know that anything would be a surprise about Bernie.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know that anything would happen that would, well, I mean, they could test us, but it would take something for me to feel negatively towards her.
There's a weird conversation that she has with Dev later.
Yes, we'll talk about
And
that.
we will talk about that. Which insinuates something that I think may just be dark enough for me to turn on her.
What did you make of Paul and Denny in the pub?
It was terrible.
Immediately, what an asshole this guy is, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah. Your son is dying. He should not be drinking. He should especially not be drinking this much. You know, and that collar is necessary to keep his head up so that he doesn't drown on his own spit.
Yeah, it's just so awful that his opinions of everybody else, that people that have been there for Paul in the past and are there for him now, he looks at them with such disdain that they're just fucking do-gooders. like he's got the best idea for what his son needs.
Right.
Despite the fact that
To get drunk.
who knows when you last saw him?
Well, apparently when Paul and Gemma were teenagers,
Yeah.
you know, and Denny was using them as punching bags.
Like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
He's had nothing to do with them for the majority of their
Right,
lives.
yes.
And he turns up thinking that he knows best.
Right. Yeah. Right after there's a report on the radio about the crowdfunding.
Yeah. On Friday.
I say.
Yeah, I agree. Indeed. On Friday, Dev is not impressed with the sound of Denny and starts polishing his 9-iron.
But not like that.
Bernie doesn't think Denny needs riling. Meanwhile, Billy has been a bit sanctimonious about Paul puking down himself last night over the hoodie that I bought you.
Fuck
Nah,
off, Billy.
Let's focus on the important part there. He says that Denny is the last thing he needs. The buzzer goes, and of course it's twat of the year, Denny. Billy can't hide his contempt while Denny insists that he can look after Paul. Paul says he'll be fine, so Billy fucks off to see Mr. Finnegan Beginnigan, who lost his wife apparently. And Paul and Denny hit the DVDs. Despite being warned not to leave Paul on his own, Denny more or less immediately leaves Paul on his own to grab some ice cream. And he runs into Gemma and Dev's store and lies, saying that Billy is looking after Paul.
Right.
Denny is just the worst piece of shit.
He really
and
is.
reminds a furious Gemma that there's two sides to every story and asks to see his grandkids. And guilted into this, Gemma sends him to Nina Rolls.
Yeah. But he also, while looking at the ice cream, Gemma's like, well, you should get the chocolate because that's Paul's favorite. And Denny says, I don't care for chocolate too much. I'm just going to get vanilla. And it's like, your son's dying. Eat the chocolate.
Yep. Meanwhile, as Denny fannies around with the quads in the cafe, Paul is really struggling to breathe back at the flat, and it's a horrible scene.
It really is. It's terrible. Poor
And it's-
Paul.
It's like he's got that kind of rattle in his breathing, and it's like, oh my God, this could very easily be the end. He manages to call an ambulance, but drops his phone before he can give out his address. And while this is going on, Bernie is at the quad house going through a trinket box when Dev comes in, doing a reenactment of an albatross he got today on the golf course. Bernie's trinket box, though, quickly brings him back down to earth, and he wants to know what she's hiding from him. She talks about family, and she's careful to say all her kids, rather than both. She asks about Dev kids, the ones that he never sees. She asks how that sits. He says it just sits. And then he gets maudlin about thinking about how much he's missed out on, and how he wasn't ready to be a dad, but he was never the best at timing, and how the guilt crushes him some nights. Meanwhile, Denny finally gets back to the God flat to find Paul turning blue, but thankfully Asha and the ambulance crew are there to get Paul and load him in. Denny admits to Billy that he left Paul on his own, and everyone tells Denny that they're off to wed the general. Denny is confused why people keep telling him this. Later, Billy finally gets a hold of Bernie and fills her in.
And I like that.
He and Paul are waiting in the ambulance at the hospital to see if there's a bed, and I've never seen this happen before, where we go to the hospital and then we're having to wait outside the hospital. Really weird.
I think this is something that started during COVID.
Well, not in the show, it didn't.
No.
Paul regains consciousness and Asha is happy that he's stable.
Yeah, because Asha's the EMT.
And at least partly responsible for, I'm going to go and say it, saving Paul's life here.
Yes.
Billy regrets leaving Paul on his own with his asshole dad. Denny, meanwhile, has gone for a six-pack instead, but bumps into Gemma, who has to fucking drag him to the hospital with her. She's fucking furious that Denny abandoned Paul. Again. So in the hospital, we learn that Paul has pneumonia that's been brought on from inhaling his own vomit yesterday. It quickly becomes apparent that no one wants Denny there, so despite lugging his six-pack all the way from Coronation Street, he has to lug them all the way back again as he basically gets kicked out. As he leaves, though, Denny's on the phone to a mate, and it sounds very much like he intends to sell Paul's electric wheelchair. What a cunt.
Yes. What
And
a
that's-
shower of cunts.
And that's how we end this week's episodes.
Yeah.
Why bring this asshole into it? Because this storyline needs something more tragic in it, that he's going to lose his wheelchair now. Oh, dearie me.
I'm hoping this guy gets caught before the wheelchair goes away.
Let's hope so.
Or that Brian finds it in the quadrant there.
First things first.
Yeah.
Peter Ash is doing such an incredible job here.
Yes, very much so.
The way that he has gradually lost bits of his voice and lost his movement, and when they introduced that neck brace this week, it was, oh my God, that's taken another turn as well. They've just gradually kind of drip-fed this deterioration, and they've done it really well, and he has handled this incredibly.
And the fact that, you know, whenever he gets a drink, it comes with a straw.
Yeah. And even then it's a struggle.
Right. It's tragic.
God, it wasn't that long ago that all he did was kind of drag his foot a little bit.
Right.
But he is still Paul.
Yes.
But
Because he
he's
says
less,
fuck on the radio.
he's less recognisably Paul.
Yeah.
And I think seeing that in the flat when he was on his own really kind of brings it home to you how
He really can't be on his own anymore.
yeah, and how desperate this awful disease is.
Mm-hmm.
As you just struggling just to sit up and breathe on
Right.
your own. Oh my God, just awful. But what a job Peter Ash is doing here. It's really affecting, and it's really upsetting. And it's, you know, you don't really watch sometimes TV to get upset about things, but I'm glad that they're doing this so well, because it really deserves it. I don't know that it deserves the misery that Denny's bringing.
No.
He's such a horrible Ricky Gervais character.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's who it is.
Yes, it is.
That's who it is. I'm like watching this guy and I'm like, who does he remind me of? He reminds me of someone. Who the hell is it? And you're exactly right.
I know.
Yeah.
He's got mannerisms that match Ricky Gervais as well.
Ugh.
And his face kind of looks like him, and he's got the little goatee thing going on.
Right. Yeah. And he looks skeevy.
Right.
Remember when Ricky Gervais used to make
We laugh. Yeah, I remember that.
videos of himself in the bathtub
No,
to talk about animal abuse?
don't want to think about that.
Yeah, it was
So,
disturbing.
Bernie's possible secret then, I guess, is that she's got another kid.
Oh, we didn't talk about it.
That's why we're talking about it now.
Yeah. First of all, I didn't realize that Dev had other kids.
He has many. One from every woman that he had working in one of his stores when he had his big empire. we got to see some of them.
In every port.
Amber was wonderful. One of my favourite characters.
Uh-huh.
We haven't seen her for a while. She's
Right.
a lesbian.
Yes. When Dev dies, are they all going to come out of the woodwork? Should there be more letters after DAA on that store?
The store isn't big enough to put all the letters on it.
Yeah, it sounds like she had another kid. It sounds like that kid is no more. And the way Denny is talking, it kind of sounds like maybe Bernie was responsible for that death.
Neglectful, maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't
He was
think
like
that
taking
far.
on a lot of, you know, the ways like it's probably her fault that you have MND because she was taking so many drugs. That's not how MND works.
Mm-hmm.
Asshole.
Which everybody knows.
Right, which everybody knows. And also, is anybody surprised that Bernie in her 20s was taking a lot of drugs? I'm not.
No.
I mean, it was the 90s. Everybody was taking a lot of drugs.
Some.
You smoked weed once. And you didn't like it.
It just gives me a whitey. Every time I smoked it gave me a whitey.
Did you take LSD?
I didn't, but I did do some coke and I did some speed.
Oh, okay. I think I'm a little surprised about the coke.
Some ease.
I'm not surprised about the speed, though. I took LSD because I'm a hippie. LSD and weed. That's me. I'm simple.
Excellent.
That's all you need, right? That's all you need.
All I need's a good book.
And some LSD and weed.
Right. Oh, just a little bumper to a Coke. That never agreed with me either. I really found it hard to find any drug that agreed with me.
Does Coke agree with anyone? Is that what Coke is for? I don't feel like Coke
Do you know
is...
what the thing with Coke is? Is you're doing Coke.
Right.
That's the thing with
It's kind of like heroin.
it. Huh?
Is heroin ever a good thing? I don't think so. I've never had it, but I've watched people do it, and it doesn't seem like it's a lot of fun.
I don't know. I laughed most of the way through Trainspotting. I didn't.
No, who did? The baby on the roof? Come on.
Oh, this was terribly done. Anyway.
We thought it was state of the art at the time.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we
No, we
did.
didn't. I never.
And him
Anyway.
crawling out of the toilet? Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yeah,
I thought that Bernie... Benny, it sounded like Benny had another kid. I didn't draw any conclusions about what had happened to that kid, or whether or not it was her fault or not. I think I agree based on what she was saying and how upset she was.
right.
It does make me think that that's definitely a possibility.
And also, unlike Dev, it's not like she could walk away from another kid as easily as Dev had. That's not how that works.
But if we get a Bernie story out of this, I'll be quite happy with that.
Yeah.
I think she's just since her reintroduction, I think she's been one of the best characters on the show that never seems to get her storyline, although she did have her doppelganger storyline, which was hilarious.
Right. And also the selling stuff and getting put in prison. Remember that? Which was only a few months ago.
Oh, yes, she has. She had that right enough.
She did have that right enough. Yes. And also, I
bless
think
her.
she and Dev, I think, at first I didn't like this coupling, but now they're kind of my favorite after Gary and Maria. It feels like
I think it works. Yeah, I agree.
yeah. I think they work together because they're both kind of kooky.
What a spectrum we got of Dev this week.
Yes.
1 minute, he's high as a kite talking about his albatross.
Right.
And then in the blink of an eye, he's
Just-
delivering this really heavy
Right.
monologue about how the weight of the guilt crushes him at night. And it's like, oh
Right.
my God.
You know,
Is
Dev,
there anything in between, Dev?
there's a
Or
cure
is-
for that. There's a cure for that. You could reach out
Go
and
talk
try to
your
talk
kids.
to them.
Yeah. I don't think they talk to him, though. That's the thing.
No, but he could at least try.
Right. It was a bit funny that everyone was so desperate to get Denny at the hospital. Billy tells him, Asha tells him, Gemma drags
Drags
him.
him.
And as soon as he gets there, it's like,
And opens up his mouth.
yeah, you can't say anything without people hating him.
Right, yeah. And then everybody's like, nope, this was a bad idea. Get the hell out of
Get
here.
them the fuck away from here.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because you're kind of hopeful that what he's saying to Paul in the pub is true, that, you know, the fact that Paul is dying has made him realize what he's lost all those many years, and
Yeah.
that he's become a better man in the interim and wants to be there for him. You kind of want that to be true. And then of course it's not.
Yeah, I would like him to at least partly be there for his son.
Yeah. But
And
that
he's
doesn't
not.
seem like that's going to happen.
And he really is there just for the money. Although he did seem genuinely interested in his grandkids.
Yeah. He did.
Was that genuine?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, as someone with a problematic father, you never really know what you're going to get
No.
and how deep it is. So, you know, it could have just been a ploy to get Gemma on side the way he got Paul on side. You know, because at first Gemma's like, absolutely not. You're not meeting the kids. You're not having any sort of relationship with them.
But how quickly he was able to weasel his way in.
Yeah. Yeah, next thing we know, he's going to be stealing and selling the big ass refrigerator,
Oh, he better keep his fucking fingers off that.
which is still spitting out eggs.
Very protective about that. Billy never trusted him, not from the start.
No. Well,
I don't know if that's great on Billy.
No, because Billy doesn't meet him initially. He just hears from Gemma and Bernie about how much of a waste of space this guy is, and Billy kind of seems like he wants to give him the benefit of the doubt until they show up drunk.
Yeah.
And Paul vomits all over himself and is not wearing his neck brace.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of weird too. It's like, why is this guy so obsessed with his neck brace? Why does he keep wanting Paul to take it off?
I know.
It doesn't make any sense. It's almost as if he's trying to kill him so he can steal the wheelchair and the money, the crowdsourcing money, which is ridiculous because he wouldn't be able to get a hold of it anyway because that money is tied up with a number of people.
It's not
for the
even
MND
though
group.
it's not even though that he wants to get his hands on the crowd-funded money. It's the fact that it's there suggests that there's other funds that are kicking about that he can get his hands on. It's just a despicable, horrible shitbag. But I've got to think it was a little funny when he was just like, "Why does everybody want me to go to the hospital? I'm not going to the hospital."
Right. Yeah. I didn't sign up for this.
He says,
Like,
in a
actually, you
in a
did,
Ricky
pal.
Gervais kind of way.
Actually, you did, pal. You came back supposedly because you knew your son was dying. Well, this is the part of the dying. This is the dying bit.
Yeah, I keep on thinking every time something like this happens that Billy just becomes more and more concerned that we're getting closer to the point where he's going to want to take his overdose. Mm-hmm. Because it feels now, after this has happened, he's getting mightily close to wanting that to happen.
Yeah.
If that's how he still chooses to go
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Because maybe he's changed his mind about that. But
And lo and behold, they'll go to the cupboard and discover that Liam has stolen it.
how's Liam going to get there?
He's going to watch Jackie Chan movies with Joseph.
Well, that puts him into Joseph's house. Doesn't put him into the God flat.
Maybe they're watching them at the God Flat because they are Uncle Paul's videos.
Although, did somebody hide them somewhere? I can't remember what happened to those
I don't know.
benzos that Abby was so kind to get for him.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well done, Abby.
Well, that was the week that was Coronation Street. Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
You know, there's a part of me that wants to give it to Tim and Steve's breakup. But I think it's Dev talking about his other mystery kids.
I loved
with
that
Bernie.
as well. I mean,
Yeah.
there were a few good speeches this week.
There were.
Paul's interview at the radio station.
Yeah, that was very good.
That bit, though, felt a little bit public servicey to me.
Right.
Which was fine,
Which
because
is fine.
that's exactly why he was there, was
Right.
to raise the awareness and that.
Right.
But just a kind of, almost like a happy
And for
happenstance.
us, it's kind of stuff that we already know.
Right.
That we've
But it was
already
still
heard
good.
from him.
It was
But it was
still
very
good.
good.
But yeah, I would agree. I thought Dev's 100 to 0
Yes.
was a joy
And
to
it's
behold.
nice to see that good old Jimmy can do both.
But
Get you
again-
a man who can do both.
Again, what I'm talking about with Steve, where it gives us some comedy, there's a bit of pathos behind it. And
Right.
there was Dev being 125% Dev as he's talking about his albatross. And then when Bernie tries to distract him and talk about it more, he's very, yeah, well, I'm playing with the club captain next week now. What is it you're keeping away from me? He just,
Right.
that turn I thought was
Yes.
excellent. And it was very moving. That is our
Moment of the week.
Moment of the week.
your boring moment of the week.
You know, I can't really think of anything. Is it? I kind of feel like it might be Sally.
Sally thinking that she's punching. I don't think that was boring.
It was unbelievable, though. Is it that woman who came with Carol? Because she was talking about something. Like, she's talking about something. And I can't remember what it is. Because I found that whole character kind of
The Courtney Love one?
Yeah, boring and unnecessary. And I didn't feel like that whole bit of comedy worked for me.
Is it the Rovers doing 2 types of wine?
No, because that was actually funny. And it was funny when Sally called Pinot Grigio PG. It's like,
And
what
Sean's
is she
like,
talking about?
Nobody does this.
Nobody does this.
But
And she also knows. She should. This is supposedly her local. That's why she's so offended. And she doesn't know that they don't have Pinot Grigio?
Sean was absolutely furious about it.
Yes, which was hilarious.
Mary doing her crossword puzzles?
No, because I really liked that. I really liked that Mary is not taking any shit from Roy and says, fuck you, fuck your self-pity, we're going to do puzzles together, and you're going to like it. And then...
Genuinely terrifying.
And then Roy's kind of... Well, Roy has kind of a little bit of a monologue there where he's talking about all the useless information he still has in his head.
Yeah.
And yet he can't remember this one thing.
Nick buying a TV?
He's not buying that TV. You know that.
No, he's thinking about buying a TV.
He's thinking about buying a TV. Yeah, you know what? That's it. That's him talking about that stupid... I wasn't even quite sure what he was talking about at first.
A big 70 inches. Toyah says you don't need 70 inches at home.
It's true.
Nick thinking about buying a big TV is out.
Where would he even put it? Where would he put it?
Behind the big refrigerator. That's not his house.
They don't have
Behind
a
the
big
tiny fridge.
refrigerator.
That's not his house either. Behind the Toyah washing machine. That's not his house.
They have 20 of those things as well, though. They're just nice and stainless steel.
What's your score out of 10 this week?
You know, I really enjoyed this week.
You really enjoyed it?
Yeah. I felt, for the most part, everything really worked. Except, of course, for that one scene. But it gets better because then we get Demi, who I like, even though I don't trust her.
Yeah, I like her too.
She's sassy. I like sassy
She's a bit
ladies.
sassy.
She is sassy. Of course, that just reinforces the fact that Glenda and Steve need to get together.
Glenda and Steve.
Yeah.
That would work.
It would work really well.
She is, by the way, gorgeous.
Of course she is.
Oh,
She's absolutely gorgeous.
the skin on that woman.
Is porcelain.
What?
She is so fucking pretty.
Unbelievable. Far too good for Steve.
Yeah, but
Anyway, any danger of getting a score out of you?
yeah, 7.
7. I think I'll say 7 as well.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it this week as well.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to,
Yeah.
but I did.
Yeah, and the thing that I thought was happening this week hasn't happened yet, so I'm sure it's going to happen next week.
Now, I asked our Twitter followers for their 3-letter assessment of this week's Corrie. Did they think yay? Did they think meh? Or did they think zzz?
Is a word?
We got, we're currently sitting at 98 votes and there's 17 hours left. At the moment, yay is 22.4%, meh is 38.8%, and zzz is 38.8% also. I don't think it was a zzz week.
No.
I would say it's a meh to yay.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
All right then. That about wraps it up for another week then. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast, Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Trisha, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, happy birthday Christy, Shandy, and English Victoria. If you've ever thought that was a fantastic pair, write in to tell us about it. We're the talkofthestreet@gmail.com and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
We did one this week.
We did. It was great. Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.